This is your first lesson video for the project we're going to be doing for quantitative analysis this semester. It involves picking a law. We're going to be working with House member support for law, and so the first thing that we need to do is pick your law or identify it. The instructions for this assignment will have 5 basic criteria, and those criteria need to be met in order to make sure that the project goes smoothly. So I just want to review those first before I go and start showing you some different tools that we can use to pick and identify your project. The first is we're looking for a public law, that is a bill that's been through the House and Senate and supported and signed by the President, that took place between the 101st and 113th Congress. That's between 1989 and 2014. The reason we do that is one database that we need to do the project is limited to that 101st Congress. That's the Thomas Library of Congress system. And so we want to go from that 1989 to 2014. Don't do anything for 2015 or currently for 2016. Just go for that period. Next, you need to find a public law with at least 11 and probably no more than 15, 16, 17 roll call votes in the House. If you really get it, if you find one that has a lot of votes and you want to do it, that's great. But you want to kind of stay with that floor. 11 and in the 15, 17 range is usually pretty good. So make sure you have that. Make sure that your public law has a final passage vote. That is a final passage vote in the House. And make sure that your votes exhibit variance. So in the House, we got 435 House members, so you want those kind of even splits, right? So you want 200 to 235 or something like that, 218, 217. You want kind of even splits because that means you're getting variance in the votes. If you have a whole lot of unanimous votes, your project won't work very well. And then finally, the last criteria is do not target appropriation bills, and I'll tell you why that is. It's because spending, everybody tends to support spending. They put their little project in, and then they wrap it all up with a bow at the end, and then everybody kind of votes for it. So for appropriation bills, just don't have the variance that we need to do this project. So those 5 criteria are what we're looking for. We need to be between the 101st and 113th Congress. We need a public law with 11 to 15 roll call votes within the House. Need a final passage vote. And you need votes to exhibit variance, and they should not be associated with appropriations or a spending bill. Okay, good. So the first tool that we're going to use to potentially identify your law is it's just a textual reference on landmark legislation that should prove helpful. This is the content menu of our D2L system for the course. In here, on the content links to the left, you'll have Project 1, which will look quite different. I'm just at the beginning and kind of setting it up. But at one point, you'll want to look at the status landmark legislation examples. Okay, so you can click that, you can pull it up. You can download it. I've got a copy on my desktop that I'm going to pull up here in just a little bit, but this is just nothing more than a quick reference guide on landmark legislation. So I've got it on my desktop. I'm going to pull it up, and you'll notice that it starts with the 101st Congress, which is 1989, and then it has a historical backgrounds, but then in each of these it has kind of major acts and treaties, and so these are sources that you're going to be wanting to look for. And importantly, let me expand this a little bit. For each one of these, there's going to be a public law number. So it's Public Law 101-432. So it's 101, 101st Congress, PL 432 is the 432nd law. Okay, those PL numbers are going to be important because we're going to use them in another system to identify and find the votes, and so you'll be primarily looking for those PL numbers. But you can go through, you can scan this, kind of go through and look for important kind of acts that you think are interesting, and then what we can do is we can move that over and use this ProQuest congressional system to identify whether that bill will work for the project or not. That's all we needed to do here. In addition to Stathis, we want to take advantage of some other electronic databases, such as the CQ Weekly system, which is pretty good. Let's see how we cover that. So you can get that from the other link, the OSU Library Databases. And so take that there, and it'll take you to the library site, and there's this A through Z list of academic resources that you can use to find these bills. We're just going to use C, because that's where a bunch of congressional ones are. And so Congressional ProQuest, which we'll be using a little bit. But the CQ Researcher and CQ Weeklies are pretty good down here. So let's just check on CQ Weekly. I already had it open. But on this left-hand menu, they have floor vote search, and so that's pretty good. I'm going to be using for this course an example of campaign finance reform. So what I'll do is I'll just go down here and look through the topics. So I'm going to get a whole A through Z list here of different topics that you can kind of come up with and search for. Here we can find, I think I just saw it, politics and elections, and so I'm going to take that one. Date is 1991 through the present. We can't do the most recent year, 2015 and 16, but that'll cover us. And chamber, I'm only going to be interested in the House here, and so what we'll do is do that, sort it by a date, and then I'm going to search it and see how we go. So if we do that, we'll see we've got campaign finance overhaul. This is 1999. There's several votes there, so there's about 5 or 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. About 8 of them there. Campaign finance overhaul. Okay, there's a bunch here in 2002. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, there's a whole bunch. All right. And then if we look at it, final passage. Campaign finance overhaul final passage. And so that looks like it had a lot of votes. It looked like it would work for me. And so I'm going to click that one. It'll pull it up. And it's going to be HR 2356. HR 2356. And this was for, let's see what year we have here. Independence. 2002, floor vote 107, so that must be the 107th Congress. I think it is. It's 107 down here. So this is, and let's just make sure that that is right. So we've got February 13th, 2002, and it's HR 2356, and I think it's the 107th Congress. All right, we're going to take this and we're going to go to another database and see if this one will work for us. Okay, so the last database that we're going to be using, and this is where the primary source of data for the project is going to come from, is the ProQuest Congressional System. And so it is down here, Congressional ProQuest. I'm just going to click that one, and that one should pull up this particular framework. All right, so this one has a bunch of different things going on here, but what I want to do is I want to search by number. Okay. And so the previous one I had 107 HR 2356. Okay, I'm going to search that one. And what's that going to get me? And we got a congressional record, a bunch of other things. The most important thing that I want is I want a couple things. The first thing I want is legislative history. That is the Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act of 2002. This gives me my PL number. So I want PL 107155. So write that one down. PL 107155 is going to be my number. And then the next thing, we'll just go back. I want the bill profile report. This is the system that has the information that we need in it. Okay, and so what this does is it provides a whole lot of different information. But the first thing we know, we introduce House, Senate, President, and law, so we know that it's a public law here. And when I take that one, it's going to have different options here. So it's going to provide you a summary. It's going to provide you actions. All right, so it's going to show the different status here. It'll show all the different remarks and everything else. The one that we need is floor votes, right? And so we're going to look here, and so Senate, we're going to ignore the Senate for the time being, but let's take a look at the House, right? So House, let's look at House. We got narrowly divided votes here. That one's a little bit overwhelming. Got narrowly divided votes there, narrowly divided votes there. That one's a little overwhelming, but that's okay. That one's narrowly divided, etc. And so I've got more than 10. I can tell that already. I think I probably got about 15 in here, if I remember correctly. And so what this is telling me is that I've got ample number of votes and I've got ample variance in it because I've got these kind of really narrow coalitions, and this means that it'll be a good one for my project. Okay, so after you've gone through Stathis and after you've done a little bit of CQ Weekly and gone through the ProQuest Congressional to make sure that you have narrowly enough votes and narrowly divided ones, then you're ready to just kind of identify it as your public law for the project and let me know about it. So what I want you to do is I want you to just send me an email with those public laws and kind of and tell me which one you want to do. I'll go through them and look at it for you and make sure that it's workable. If you're having problems identifying one particular one, then send me send me 2 or 3 good prospects, and I'll look at them and I'll tell you which one I think will work best. That's usually pretty easy for me to do. So that's the end of this first lesson.